Susie sat in her dorm, swirling a potion around in her hand. Her uncovered eye followed it, and she sighed. Her potions, in her opinion, had been kinda bland lately, and didn't have any potential. Her mushrooms worked fine, but there was something else she needed to get the desired effect. She just wasn't sure what. The door opened, and Akko and Amanda walked in, giggling. Susie looked over, the same solemn expression on her face.
Hey, Sue!
Akko greeted. Amanda was holding Akko's hand.
What's up, girl?
Amanda asked. Susie looked at her potion and then back at Amanda.
Oh, making potions?
Amanda asked.
You can say that.
Susie replied, a bit of an edge to her voice. Akko furrowed her eyebrows in concern.
You okay, Susie? You sound mad.
Akko asked. Susie swirled her potion around some more, narrowing her eyes. Amanda walked over.
Is it something with your potion?
Amanda asked curiously. Susie looked away, trying not to express her dissatisfaction. Amanda put her hand on her hips.
Oh, I see. You want to try something new with your potions?
Susie set her potion down and took a deep breath.
Fine, yes.
Susie responded. Akko walked over, a big grin on her face.
Wow, you know who else makes potions, right?
Akko asked. Susie glanced at her and Akko clapped her hands together.
Nikiruka does! Why don't you see her?
That's a good idea.
Amanda agreed, grabbing Akko's hand and kissing her cheek. Akko blushed heavily and giggled, and Susie just glared at them.
All right.
Susie replied, her voice monotonous. She stood up, potion in hand, and turned to head out of the dorm.
See you later, Susie!
Akko waved her hand, and Susie left. Nikarika's dorm was just down the hallway. Susie didn't know why she didn't think of asking Nikarika before. Much like Susie, she also made potions, although Nikarika's were more medicinal. Susie mainly used mushrooms, but Nikarika used animal bones. Ever since Nikarika arrived at the school, she and Susie hit it off really well, due to their mutual interest in potions and the macabre. What was really strange to Susie, however, was that when their groups were together, Susie always wanted to be next to Nikarika. Susie always wanted to talk to her, to make her smile. Susie's heart fluttered when she thought of Nikarika. She didn't know what to make of it. She stopped in front of Nikarika's door and knocked. She could hear someone shuffling inside, and then the door opened. There stood Nikarika.
Susu!
Nikarika greeted, a wide smile spreading over her face.
What brings you to my room?
Susie held up her potion.
I'm bored with my potions. I want to experiment using new ingredients.
Susie explained. Nikarika put a hand on Susie's shoulder.
Well, you came to the right place.
Nikarika beamed. She stepped aside and gestured Susie inside. Susie walked inside, and Nikarika closed the door. She then walked over to her bed and shuffled around underneath it, pulling out a large box of animal bones. Susie walked over, looking at all that she had. She picked up a small skull and looked at Nikarika curiously. Nikarika grinned.
That's a bat skull.
Nikarika said.
You can take it if you want.
Susie put it in her pocket and rummaged through more of the bones. She pulled out a large rib bone, and Nikarika explained to her that it was a cattle rib. Susie then grabbed a water buffalo horn.
I think that's good.
Susie said, holding the materials. Nikarika pushed the box back under the bed. Susie stared at her.
Where did you get all of these?
My parents run a fetish stand back home in Loam, so they send me some things from what they gather to help with my potions.
Nikarika explained. Susie nodded, eyeing the items she held.
Do you want to work on a potion with me?
Susie asked. Nikarika clapped her hands together, grinning.
I'd love to. I really admire your work. I'd be honored to work with you.
Nikarika grinned. Susie nodded her head. Susie reached into her pockets and pulled out some mushrooms. Nikarika smiled warmly and grabbed a large pot from under her bed.
Come on, let's go to the apothecary room.
Nikarika suggested. A sadistic smirk crossed Susie's pale face.
What's the fun in that? Let's do it in this room.
Susie laughed. Nikarika put a hand on Susie's shoulder.
Well, I would, but I need to burn these bones, Susu.
She chuckled. Susie let out a disappointed sigh, and they carried the pot and the ingredients down to the apothecary room. They reached the apothecary room, which was unoccupied. They set the pot down on the burners, and they added buckets full of water for the base. Nikarika switched on the burner, and soon enough the water started to boil. Susie took out her mushrooms and dropped them in. The water started to fizz. Nikarika then added in the bat skull, cattle rib, and water buffalo horn. The water turned a black color, fizzing and making a squealing noise. Susie and Nakaraka took deep breaths, inhaling the fumes. They then looked at each other, smiling warmly. Susie fell headlong into Nakaraka's chocolate brown eyes, then looked away, confused at the weird fluttering feeling in her chest. Susie grabbed a large stick and began to stir the potion. Nakaraka grinned and watched her. Soon enough, the water was thick and pudding-like. Susie grabbed a bottle and filled it up with the potion, screwing the top tight. Nakaraka did the same.
I can't wait to try this potion on Akko.
Susie said. Nakaraka let out a boisterous laugh, but then she calmed down.
You know, Susie,
Nakaraka started softly. Susie looked over at her, and Nakaraka had her hands over her heart, her eyes fixed on the potion, but with a relaxed look in them.
I've always admired your work.
She looked over at Susie, smiling.
I've always admired you.
Susie's eyes grew wide and she stared back. Nakaraka started to sweat nervously.
Susie, I really like you. In fact, I love you.
Nakaraka admitted. Susie just continued to stare, saying nothing. Nakaraka's expression grew sad.
I know you probably don't like me back.
Susie smiled softly and put a hand on Nakaraka's shoulder.
Kirika,
Susie started.
I love you too.
Nakaraka gasped and covered her mouth.
You really do?
Nakaraka asked, shocked. Susie gave a nod and Nakaraka grinned and hugged Susie tightly. Susie hugged her back. She had liked Nakaraka for quite some time, she realized. She appreciated Nakaraka's knowledge and potions, and her enthusiasm and kindness towards Susie. Nakaraka lifted Susie off the ground in her tight hug, and Susie stuck out her tongue, the sappiness of it all making her laugh. Then Nakaraka set her down and took Susie's hands in her own.
So, we're a couple now?
Nakaraka asked. Susie gave a slight nod.
Yes.
Susie responded. Nakaraka smiled and placed her hands on her cheeks, batting her eyelashes at Susie.
I'm so glad you like me back.
She beamed. Susie smiled, and suddenly they heard a loud noise, as if a bubble had popped. Susie whipped around, and Nakaraka peered over Susie's shoulders to see that the potion they had made together was now covering the floor and part of the walls. They had forgotten about it, and it had exploded. It even got in Susie's hair and on her uniform.
Oops.
Nakaraka murmured. The door swung open and in walked Professor Finnelan. Her eyes grew wide at the sight of the potion covering the room, but then she grimaced.
Susie! Nakaruka, what have you done?
She hissed. Nakaraka waved her hands, sweating nervously. Susie just stared.
I'm sorry, Professor Finnelan. It was an accident.
Nakaraka whined, terrified of getting in trouble. Finnelan took a step forward.
Accident or not, you two made a mess? Clean it up immediately!
Finnelan ordered. She then stormed out of the room, and Nakaraka and Susie looked at each other. Nakaraka had fear in her eyes, but Susie just chuckled. Seeing Susie's calm reaction, Nakaraka smiled and relaxed.
I guess we better get cleaning.
Nakaraka said.
I guess so.
Susie responded, smiling. The two began to clean, scrubbing the floors and walls. While it tired them out, it wasn't bad because they got to spend time with each other.